Hello, listeners, and welcome to the podcast.
Today, we'll be discussing a very important topic. My name is Isabella,
And my name is Liz.
and I hope you enjoy this podcast.
Hello, listeners. Today in this podcast, Isabel and I are going to talk about one specific SDG. But first of all, I will introduce all of you what are the SDGs. The Sustainable Development Goals, adopted by the United Nations in 2015, also known as the Global Goals, are a call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and bring peace and prosperity to people by 2030. But we're going to focus on the SDG No Poverty. Its corresponding target is number 1.2, which states that by 2030, reduce at least by half the proportion of men, women, and children of all ages living in poverty in all its dimensions according to national definitions.
Exactly, Liz. No poverty. As the majority may know, poverty is a huge problem all around the world. But we are going to talk about poverty here in Mexico. Even though there are many organizations willing to help reduce poverty by donating food, clothes, materials, etc., almost half of Mexico's population live in poverty and 10% live in extreme poverty. So, the big question is, what strategies can we apply in Mexico to decrease poverty?
What a great question. We will answer it in a few minutes. During the past month, I interviewed a street vendor, an immigrant, and an indigenous woman to see their perspective about this topic, and you won't imagine the answers I got from these people. Isabella, I think you also interviewed some people, right?
Yes, Liz. I interviewed an indigenous woman, an immigrant, and a recent single mother, and I was impressed with their perspectives. Let me talk about the first person I interviewed, which was an immigrant. Firstly, while interviewing the immigrants at Casa Indi, I came across a man that captured my attention, since he was pretty young and he was disabled. And before starting the interview, he explained how he ended up there, and that he had an accident that left him without an arm and a leg, imagine. To summarize, he managed to escape from Honduras with his cousin. After terrible nights in the rain and inside the jungle, listening to literal gorillas at night. After losing his cousin, that was captured by the police, he managed to find a stable, well-paid job that lasted 3 months, until he had the accident, while accidentally touching an electric fence at Casa Indi. During the interview, I was absolutely surprised with the positive energy that Edgar had, considering he had gone through many things. He said Mexicans were always nice to him and that he was grateful that students like us came to visit, which is why I am going to encourage my friends to visit places like Casa Indi more often, since they are isolated from the rest of the country and a visit can really change their day. I was totally impressed with the positive attitude he has, even though he has gone through very hard stuff.
Wow, I'm impressed by all the things Edgar has gone through. It's amazing the fact that people like him are satisfied with their lives and see all the positive things instead of being sad about all the bad things they have gone through. I'm gonna make an invitation to all of our listeners. Go and visit in your free time Casa Indi to gladden these people for a moment. It will make their day to talk to you and see that you are spending some time to visit them. And besides that, you will learn amazing things from these people. Now, I will talk about my experience with the street vendor I interviewed. The street vendor was a woman who sells tacos in the street, and it took me several times for the woman to agree to answer the questions I had. She was really afraid that this interview was for bad means. Even though this woman is a widow and needs to maintain her 2 children, she has a very positive perspective of life. She's really satisfied with the job she has. She works honestly, and she's satisfied because she is able to give her children a good education and a home. But the sad reality is that she still has difficult things to get through. She has seen how officers steal money from any street vendor, and there have been times when the police makes her and the rest of the street vendors to leave, because the wealthy people that work in the buildings don't like to see street vendors outside their offices. Personally, it really pissed me off the fact that officers abuse from these people and steal the money they earn. But from what I saw, she lives with fear of getting kicked out by the police, but she's really happy of what she's doing.
That's impressive. It actually makes me very happy to hear that these people are happy with their lives, and that even though they have hard times, they get through them and keep fighting to reach their goal. Which, in this case, the main goal to this woman is to maintain her children. Did she tell you about what people say about them?
Yes, and it really made me sad of what people say about them. She told me that she has heard of working people near that place, that the people who sell things on the street are hindering and that they should be kicked out, and that really pissed me off because it's unbelievable that they cannot see the hard work these people are doing. But well, that has been said for a long time. But we should all be open-minded and put on other people's shoes.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I heard that you also interviewed an immigrant. Tell us about your experience with an immigrant.
Yes, I interviewed an immigrant who also works by selling ice cream in the street. Let me talk about that. This person has gone through a lot of things, but he's also really satisfied with his job. This man is an immigrant, but he's from Mexico. One of his greatest difficulties of his life was that he tried to pass to the United States for a better lifestyle, but he got caught and was deported to Monterrey. His perspective of life is quite different because his main goal is to get a visa so he can go to the United States and start a better life there. But meanwhile, he's happy with the job he has right now. He has a business of his own. And he prefers to have his own business than working in a company because from his experience, he earns more money selling ice cream than working somewhere else. Based on what he said, his biggest fear is the same as a street vendor I interviewed first. He is afraid of the officers that abuse and steal money from them. Now, in my opinion, after I interviewed this man, I strongly agree on the vision this man has, that he won't stop until he gets what he wants, that is having a business of his own and getting the visa to have a better job and a better lifestyle.
It's amazing how before interviewing the people and before listening to these stories, I thought that these people were not happy and that they struggled a lot to maintain their family or themselves. But after listening to these stories, I realized that I was totally wrong. And doing all it takes to reach their goal motivates me to not quit and be happy and grateful for all the things I have. And to all our listeners, I hope that after listening to all these stories, your perspective of life has changed and you can be happy and grateful always. And don't forget that with a positive attitude, you can go through everything.
Exactly. Our listeners, take note.
Yes, to conclude the topic, all of these people have their own battles, and I believe that they should be heard in order for us to understand where they are coming from. In addition, every single one of these groups of people are looking for ways to improve their way of living, while having little to no money, which is why I wanted to hear and see things from their perspectives, which differ a lot depending on what their main problems are. What do you think, Liz?
Totally agree with you, and I believe that there are many solutions to decrease poverty here in Mexico and all around the world. And with all of us putting our grain of sand, we are helping with the problem. Just by donating money to an organization, it helps. Now, to close the topic, Mexico suffers from high poverty rate. Current situations about this SDG is that the minimum salary wage in Mexico is 3 to 4 times lower than in the United States. Many schools have no quality education, resulting from lack of skills and knowledge. But despite all of the problems, poverty in Mexico has decreased 25% since 1995.
And remember, our lovely listeners, any help makes a difference.